see you, man.
Well, I got this from it they gave me.
Well, you know what? I just have to drop in and go to lunch or something.
Okay.
Do that.
It's best to take them out. Then you can pop it in your mouth.
See what the campaign does to you?
Yeah. Is this a new form? I haven't seen this one.
Like, really?
Morning, how are you? Good.
It's a new form? I haven't seen it before. Okay.
They're running it.
All right, thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of PSTA to order for December 10th. Thank you all for joining us. I'd like to start the meeting with a moment of silence, if you would rise. Thank you. Commissioner Maroney, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd like to speak under public comment, please fill out a green card. You'll be given up to 3 minutes. And if you have other folks who will waive their time, you'll be given up to a total of 10 minutes to speak. Before we start, I wanted to recognize our new board member, Mayor Doug Beavis, who's with us today. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And this is a return for you.
A return for
Sir.
me. Yes,
good.
that's correct.
Good to have you back. We'll move on to public comment, and the first speaker is Tom Rask, speaking for himself, and Sully Grasso, so he will have a total of 6 minutes.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning. I noticed this morning, maybe this has been the case before, but you have a security guard in the lobby who's armed. I think PSTA should review whether you actually need a security guard with a firearm in the lobby. It's a bit troubling, at least to me, maybe not to others, but just thought I'd mention that. I emailed the board yesterday about a memo the PSTA COO, James Bradford, sent out the day after the election, which I think is noteworthy. I mentioned that in my email. I hope you read the memo. I hope there will be, I don't know what word to use, but I'll just say consequences of this memo. I'm not going to suggest any consequences other than that there be some consequences. It was tone deaf, this memo. It said that it called the 62% who voted against Greenlight, he called them naysayers, dream killers, vision vultures, and haters. To characterize the 62% who voted no as haters and naysayers is offensive. I think if you survey voters who voted no with this memo, I think they will say it was, at the very least, tone deaf. And I was confused by the term vision vultures, because vultures feed on carrion, dead animals. So I don't know if I'm supposed to interpret that as that the vision is dead, because that's been another issue that some people want to talk about, that the green light process is still going, that they're somehow still alive. The voters voted no, and I hope you'll respect that. There isn't just a memo from Mr. Bradford. If you look at the people who supported Greenlight, they uniformly want to make it personal and nasty. Mr. Compton of the Sierra Club, who's spoken to you many times before, recently posted a short comment in a Facebook post in which he said, Tom Rask is a thug. For those at home who don't know, I'm Tom Rask. Mr. Donnelly, who is the chairman of the St. Pete NAACP Criminal Justice Committee, in April, called me a racist in all caps just for being opposed to Greenlight. He made that clear, simply for my opposition to Greenlight. In a Facebook post where it was an article about Mr. Newton possibly running for the state legislature, he said, "Way to go, Wenge Newton." I pointed out that Mr. Donnelly, who was a Greenlight supporter, that he had said this back in April, and Mr. Donnelly doubled down on his own stupidity. And I don't use that word often. Mr. Donnelly may not be a stupid person, but he takes stupid actions. And he wrote, this was December 4th, to me, "You are a racist, teabagger, and cyberbully, and should consider resigning from the human race." In other words, he's suggesting that people who oppose him on public policy should go commit suicide.
Mr. Rask, I've allowed you to go over your 6 minutes.
No, it's been 3.
Okay,
Thank
my
you.
mistake. I said it was a 6.
So I
Okay.
urge you to denounce this kind of language, not just from Mr. Bradford, but from others like Mr. Donnelly. You know, on Pearl Harbor Day, I visited a gentleman named Michael Morgan in a correctional facility in the Panhandle. You should all, at least of you, those of you who live south of Park Boulevard, should be familiar with this case, because he's a gentleman from Pinellas County who's been unjustly incarcerated since his teens. He's now 40. His 41st birthday is next month. And I noticed that some board members now are more busy discussing other things rather than listening to public comment. That's, of course, their right. But I didn't see Mr. Donnelly. I'm not aware that Mr. Donnelly has once visited Mr. Morgan in prison or written to him. And I find this remarkable given that he is the chairman of the NAACP Criminal Justice Committee. Mr. Morgan is an African American. If you want to learn more about his case, please visit www.michaelmorganstory.com. Again, the main message I have for you is please denounce people like Mr. Donnelly, Mr. Compton. Denounce their language. You don't have to denounce them. These are your supporters. They are the ones who are making it unpleasant and nasty. They always choose to make it personal. Racist, teabagger, cyberbully who should go kill himself. That's what they say. And returning to the memo involving Mr. Bradford, again, I ask you that you take action. There's 62% who rejected Greenlight Pinellas, and to characterize them in this fashion is just not acceptable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. You did forward this memo from Mr. Bradford to us yesterday. I've asked our CEO and our attorney to take a look at it. I'll just tell you, in my personal opinion, I did not read it as labeling the 62% of voters. If you read the exact wording, he is talking about a certain mindset. He's not saying all the voters that voted against Greenlight are naysayers. I'm looking at it right here. One sentence says, "The positive support we receive ultimately drowns out the naysayers." Doesn't say the 62%, doesn't say the voters, so I just read it differently than you do. And you're right, it has been a nasty campaign. When you have members of this board who have been portrayed in a Hitler video that has been linked to you in the media. No, you can respond when I'm finished. When we have attacks by you on several members of this board, I can go around the dais, personal attacks that I will not repeat again on this dais, but I've talked about them before. Personal attacks about people's personal lives. It just doesn't seem to me to be situational outrage. Certainly Hitler was the biggest hater of all time, a mass murderer, and myself, Commissioner Latvala, other members were linked in a video that was broadcast and linked us to him. Now that is hate. That is nasty. And so for you to stand here and play the innocent person is just a bit more than I can take once again. As to the memo, I will ask our CEO to make any comments on that. I've asked our attorney to take a look and see if that violated any of our policies or procedures. But in reading this, it seemed to me like a passionate response from Mr. Bradford to his employees. It was not to you. It was not to the public. In light of, and this happened November 5th, so I don't know why we just received this yesterday. but he was addressing green light and urging his troops to move forward. Would I have used some of this wording if I wrote it? Probably not. But I don't see it as painting the 62% or assailing the voters of this county. Brad, do you have any comments at this time on this issue?
Just a few. James Bradford is our chief operating officer over our some close to 600, 500 bus operators and mechanics and maintenance personnel. And this memo, I think he wrote maybe the night of the vote, and then was distributed shortly on the next day to the bus operators and mechanics, many of which were coming to all of us and saying, "Oh my gosh, have I just lost my job? What's going to happen to PSTA? They don't know. What do I tell my riders?" And we've talked about the language in the memo, and I know that he regrets using those terms. So your point as well is taken.
Okay, so because if you talk about
You can
haters,
respond to the Hitler issue that
I'm going to
you want
respond to that.
You're not going to do it back and forth with Brad.
Will not. My
Please
response
respond
to your accusation of a Hitler video is it was a parody video. My response is at www.rask.com/parody.
It was on your
That's where
site?
my response is. And
Was
I
it on your
suspect-
site? Was it on your
I'm saying
site?
my response to your accusations.
It's not an accusation.
Your scurrilous accusations
Was
are.
was the Hitler video on your site? Is that your
There's no
site?
Hitler video on my site.
What was
You're
it?
asking a specific question. I'm answering your specific
Okay.
question.
What was
you want
on
to
your
get
site?
into me with one-to-one over internet issues, technical issues?
Well, if we're talking about a nasty campaign, I'm asking how do you defend a Hitler video on your site that has me
There
taking
you
orders
go
from Hitler?
again.
I'm asking a question.
There you go again. You went to Tiger Bay. You try to make this about fluoride, Meals on Wheels, all kinds of other issues other than the plan.
Mm-hmm.
There you go again. I came to this meeting, and I'm sure others did too, to see what the attitude would be
Okay, I
of
gave you
this
extra
board,
time to respond to
including
that
at the
specific
MPO
issue.
meeting.
You've had your 6 minutes. We're going to move
My
on.
answer to your
move
accusation
on,
of there
Mr.
being a
Rask.
Hitler video is at rask.com/parody. I will send that to the board. I anticipated
Thank
this
you.
ridiculous attack,
Thank you.
so I will email it to you, the board.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying your involvement in that. The next speaker will be Barb Hazelden. She's speaking for 6 minutes for herself and Giselia Lambitz.
Well, it's over. And, we haven't left the field. I'm talking on behalf of No Tax for Tracks. I just wanted to speak about a few things. And one thing is to talk about the outpouring of support that No Tax for Tracks had, especially towards the end, when it actually became a tsunami of support. And I really have come here today to tell you folks, many of whom are elected officials, many of whom were sitting on boards around the county endorsing green light when, in fact, your constituency was strongly against green light. Case in point would be Dunedin. The week before the election, several of us, including myself, went out on Sunday afternoon and went door to door on main streets in Dunedin, because we had done that since the summer, and we were just amazed at how easy it was to get the signs out because people were so against green light. They were so against the tax increase in the train, not one or the other, but both. And so we purposely went to Dunedin, not out of spite, but to try to make a point to, and of course we also went to Oldsmar, and we went to Safety Harbor, and community after community, Pinellas Park. Sometimes 4 out of 5 houses would say, yeah, put one up. Yeah, put one up. Give me one for my daughter. It got to the point we ended up putting out 6,000 yard signs. And towards the end of the campaign, my biggest challenge as the campaign manager was to try to figure out how to get the yard signs out quickly enough. Because I finally put together a team of 23 people around the county, and I was shooting yard sign addresses to them, sometimes 10 at a batch. This is how viral the yard signs got. It was absolutely incredible. And I tell you this to let you know that this was no small matter. This was a huge consensus of the folks. And we have all of those names and addresses and phone numbers of those 6,000 people who have requested, and they have said, come back if you need help again. So we're hoping that we can go forward in the spirit of really trying to develop a world-class bus system that fits the need in Pinellas County. That's all we've wanted. We wanted a better bus service for the people of Pinellas County, and to not try to turn this into NASA and rocket ships going to Mars that we don't need. And I wanted to tell you about the 6,000 yard signs. I wanted to tell you about the 23 people who were doing nothing but delivering yard signs. And this is just a small part. This was coming through our Facebook page and through our website. But also, I was watching the video of the Planning Committee the other day, and I wanted to set another couple records straight, because we do care. And I am talking again about no tax for tracks, and we do care strongly about where we go from here in trying to deliver the solution that the folks of Pinellas County want. We all want a better bus service. And it was mentioned by Cassandra, and I know that I've heard this a couple of times, that or No Tax for Tracks, thinks that we should reduce PSTA to 6 routes. I don't know where that got started. That's absurd. What I have said, and this was at Stetson University, was that in the bus study last summer, the core versus the coverage options, that in both of those, we currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, have 2 15-minute routes, and that either one of these no new revenue scenarios would, if you went by those scenarios specifically, would boost us up to 6 15-minute routes. So I can only assume that's where the number 6 came from, but with the core coverage, we would go to 28 routes, and with the, the core approach, and with the coverage approach would be 40 routes. Now, knowing that these are bookends, aren't they? And so we know that the core versus the coverage of the no new revenue scenario is not to be cast in stone, but to serve as models, business models, for what may develop that could come out of this. But in either case, we're going to see some massive improvements in the bus service, and that's what we all want. And as a matter of fact, on page 60 of the bus study, they say, while in some instances it is important to continue to operate poorly performing routes, a substantial amount of cost savings can be achieved by switching to smaller vehicles in some cases. There is so much that can be done here to operate within the budget, and of course with the increase in the property value, I think we've already seen about a $3 million increase in revenue this year. We're going to probably see more of that to continue, and so it is our hope that we can be at the table January 21st. We'd like to be a part of the planning retreat. We would like us to really have a community dialogue and to really do this together and put the controversy behind us, and to take advantage of people who are willing to volunteer their time, that have been involved in this now for several years, so that we can represent the 6,000 people and the 62%, because believe me, people are constantly contacting us and are waiting to see where you're going to go from here. People are already not happy about any discussion of any more referendums, any more trains, even though we have people like Mayor Buckhorn and others that are trying to keep it going. I think we've seen with Stuart Rogel and with Tampa Bay Partnership that, it's just time to turn the page and to really roll up our sleeves and try to put together a great public transportation system, and that's our hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelden. You have, please don't clap. We want to allow everyone to be heard. Ms. Hazelden, excuse me, ma'am, that's why I say don't clap, because I start talking and we can't hear each other. Ms. Hazelden, I appreciate your efforts. We've been on different sides of this, but you've worked extremely hard on this. I think moving forward, the board needs to have a planning effort, a planning retreat, and get on the same page as a board. That's what the 21st is being submitted as, but After that, there'll be other meetings, other workshops. We're not going to solve everything on the 21st. And certainly we want all good ideas at the table, no matter where the good ideas come from. But we have to get to the point where we agree on the facts. And one place where I disagree is that we can have massive improvement if you implement the no new revenue scenario as it stands. The core coverage, as you said, improves a few routes, but it cuts 12 out of 19 supporting routes. 63% of the supporting routes, like 22nd Avenue South, 62nd Avenue South, MLK, go away. And so that's a reduction in service, not an improvement. So as we move forward, we need to agree on the facts, and it doesn't surprise you, I'm not going to take a Grover Norquist pledge not to ever increase any revenues to improve our service. So the board has to come to consensus on what we want to do, what the direction is. But in terms of y'all being at the table, we are open to ideas from wherever they come from to help us improve our transit service, and that's going to be a conversation moving forward. The next speaker is Devin Henderson.
Good morning. My name is Devin Henderson, and just to piggyback on what Tom said, yeah, I'm extremely alarmed and concerned to see an armed guard here, and even more concerned with the fact that when I turned my camera on to take a picture of the armed guard, not only did he continue to turn so I couldn't see the gun, and I have that on video, but PSTA staff, gentleman in the gray shirt, also told me I couldn't video in there, which I just continued to do, which he told me he was going to tell me one more time, to which I laughed at him and continued to videotape. So anyways, point is, I also found out some information that I got from public records requests that was quite concerning, and I wanted to address that with the board today. The Parkside Mall ticket booth / restroom project that was commissioned November 12th of 2013 has now cost over $341,000. In some PSTA board meeting minutes, Councilman Rick Butler from Pinellas Park was quoted saying that PSTA's quote of $250,000 for that project was extremely high. So if it was extremely high at $250,000, we're at $341,000+ and counting. It's not even finished yet. I called James Bradford, who was quoted saying that he said that there's no sense of urgency in the issue, that he considers it to be on target, that this will be completed sometime next year, and that this is typical for PSTA construction projects. I saw something interesting from James Bradford, another quote. This came right off of Facebook, and I just thought it important to bring this up to just kind of note the mindset of some individuals, and sometimes of the double standard. After Tom read that email, it made me think of this. It's an excerpt from one of his Facebook posts. Either you have money or you don't. Staring at the rejection screen won't get you paid. Stop wasting our time. JB is getting upset. I mean, just the last line, JB is getting upset, it shows the mindset of kind of a king mentality, you know, King JB. JB is mad. And it also shows the mindset of some of PSTA's officers and how they view those that are less fortunate. How does James know that guy, he had $30 to eat for the week, and all of a sudden it didn't show up in his account, and he just wanted to double check before he went hungry for the month? So I think PSTA still has a long way to go. It's in my opinion that all the officers need to be changed out. This board needs to be changed out. Many of you showed up late, Mr. Newton, Ms. Rice, and this is when you guys know the beginning is public comments. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Didn't want to cut you off, but I guess for our staff, they ought to know that even on a personal Facebook or Twitter account, you might as well just consider that public information whenever you post it, even if it's on a personal page. I did want to just, we've got other cards, but to the guard issue, we have had a guard here for several months. We use the same service that Pinellas County uses, these same officers that are at our commission meetings. It's nothing new. and that's the answer for that. Next speaker is Christine Lester. Thanks. Okay. Why don't you chat? Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Christine Lester. I'm a service coordinator at St. Giles Manor 2 in Pinellas Park, also an advocate for seniors. One of my residents came to me and told me that they could not ride the bus going, let's see, it's Route 74 that goes up Park Boulevard because they couldn't get across Park Boulevard, 6 lanes of traffic. We contacted the PD. They said because it's a federal highway, they can't put a crosswalk there.
The PD?
The police department.
Okay.
And so they suggested we contact PSTA. I talked to a gentleman and he said, well, see what kind of interest you have, drop a petition, see how many signatures you can get, present it to the board. So we're requesting that Route 444, where it comes down 60th and comes and loops back around 78th, that it comes up by the police department and turns left onto 77th and stops on the corner of 58th and 77th to pick up the residents there. Provides for a safe route for them. Most of them have walkers or they're elderly, so it'd be a safe mode of transportation for them.
Ma'am, I have your address here. Is this where you're speaking of, or?
Yes, that's the address. That's the residence address.
Okay, I see Eddie Kester back there in the back, and he can raise his hand and talk to you. Maybe Charlie or somebody else is here from our scheduling department to get down your thoughts, because we would certainly want to do that if it's an unsafe place for people to cross. Yeah. So Eddie, could you get with her to talk to her? Yeah,
Okay.
We'll definitely look into it.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your
Thank you
time.
for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Steve Lang.
Good morning. My name is Steve Lang, and I'm here on behalf of my own volition. I'm not here as a representative of No Tax for Tracks this morning, but in view of my role with No Tax for Tracks, in full just to tell you exactly who I am and what role I played in No Tax for Tracks, I was the chairman of Friends of Pinellas County, which is the state organization, the parent organization that created the political committee No Tax for Tracks, and is capable of creating 5 or 10 or 15 more political committees. But we'll get back to that in a second. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm an architect, licensed. I'm a realtor, licensed, commercial realtor. 15 months ago, I started to commit my life to defeating Pinellas Green Light. It was a program that had no legs from the get-go. I felt that this board and all of the supporters and constituents that you brought forward, including Tampa Bay Partnership and consultants like Jeff Danner, who sat on this board and came back and made money, that the reason we were created, the reason we became an organization that now has county-wide legs and strength is because this group would not tell the full story. You never did until the last minute. We wouldn't have existed. There wouldn't have been a reason for us if you had told our side of the story, but you refused to. When you only tell one side of the story, it's not education, it's not communication, it's propaganda. That's what you try to do to Pinellas County. It takes 35,000 people per square mile to support light rail. We have 3,300, less than 1/10 of that. It's financially infeasible. You would have straddled us with a cost for 50+ years for something we don't need. There was no demand. The citizens did not ask for it. You created this baby and you rammed it down our throats. 6238 is the answer. That is your master from this point forward. You must listen to that vote. You can't sit up here with a pompous attitude and think we're all a bunch of yokels. We're not. We proved that. And we have a countywide organization, and that's my message. You created us, and we're here to stay. You can see Sully videotaping. You can see the speakers. We're going to take on other issues. This isn't done. I don't trust you all. I don't think you do your job right. I don't think you listen to your constituents, and you should. Because we're going to do it for you if you don't do it for yourselves. Thank you.
Mr. Lang, I appreciate your straightforward comments, and we've spoken before, so I'll be straightforward as well. You have to, in my view, look at the entire election. And you remember what you told me in 2012. You remember that? You told me I better buckle my chin strap because I was up for re-election, and the voters had a different opinion. I won by the largest margin I've ever won by. In this election, clearly, y'all got the message through on green light. But the other part of that election was clearly the voters showed faith in the leadership of PSTA. Every board member who was on the ballot last year was reelected. Now, well, you don't have to listen, but I'll say it for the record.
I'm listening. I'm in the room.
Okay, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you, Steve. Let me finish.
Let me sit down.
Commissioner Maroney, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Smith, Mayor Buljowski, Commissioner Barkley were all reelected. Every member of PSTA who was on the ballot last year was reelected. If you go back to 2012, it's almost everybody up here has been reelected. So the people are saying no green light and the sales tax was not the right combination for our county. But they also said they have faith in the folks that are leading this organization. And the same thing with the county commission. Every county commissioner who was elected since 2012, including my colleague Mr. Eggers in the back, Commissioner Eggers, Commissioner Maroney, Commissioner Gerard, myself, Commissioner Long, Commissioner Justice, all ran on a platform of supporting improved transit and supporting green light. So in my view, you can't just take one part of the election. Yeah, they rejected green light and the sales tax, but they 100% believe in the faith and the leadership that we have up here. So look, we're gonna have to work together to move forward. If we can find some consensus and not end up like Washington, where it's just stalemate after stalemate, and find places where we can improve bus service, let's do that. But let's look at the entire election and what the voters said across the entire ballot. Next speaker is Jasmina Forkin. Excuse me, Jasmina. Can y'all not have that conversation while folks are trying to talk, please? Jasmina?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I live in Clearwater, and I support this commission. I supported the transit. I think public needs public transportation. We didn't make it this time. We're not giving up. We're going to help you to do whatever you come up with next. So on behalf of myself and my friends, you have our full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mitchell McNeely.
I'll give you a hard time today. I just got a question. My name is Mitchell McNeely.
Yes, sir.
And I would like to know something about your survey that you did this month. I did it from the 1st through the 7th.
Yeah.
This survey that you did on the buses and the passengers, I noticed y'all didn't have the riders with the paper survey. I think y'all did it on the internet or whatever, if I'm not mistaken. How many survey do you think percentage did y'all come out with?
I heard we came out with about 2,500.
And that also reflects, y'all said it might have an effect on the fare, but then again, y'all say it might not. But if y'all only got, if it was did by, I just said computer-wise, then y'all really didn't get the public input on this. Because on that, like I said, it might have something to do with the fare coming up in the future when you got 2,000 people compared to 10,000 people who might go against it. And yet y'all might raise the fare. But the last time y'all did a survey, y'all had people riding the buses with paper ballots and people walking around in the terminals giving out paper ballots. So how can y'all do a survey if you're spending a lot of money on a survey and not doing it the right way? Because everybody don't have computers, especially iPhones or iPads and stuff like that. That's not fair. I don't use a computer. I don't have one. I'm not no computer person. So I don't think that should count when you get ready to raise this fare. If you're going to do it, use paper ballots like you did before, because I don't think that's right. Also, you should go out and write. Wait a minute, I'm going to get back to that. About the survey also. How many of you took the survey? You taxpayers. You got to make a thing also on this maybe a fair adjustment. How many of y'all? Come on, hold up your hand.
Well,
Not answer the
you
question.
had to be a rider.
No, you ain't got to be a rider. Everybody, business people are riding the buses. Well, y'all business people, right? How many of y'all took the survey? Answer the
I
question.
took the survey. I
See
filled
that?
it
That's
out.
what I'm talking about. You want people to ride the bus, but yet, then again, now one of y'all took the survey. And y'all are part of PSTA, and y'all didn't take your own survey. That's not right. Other people feel the same way. You want them to take it, and then again, you don't want them to. That's how you get this thing going if you're going to raise money, or whether you want to raise the fare. That's how it's supposed to work. See, you don't check on stuff, you don't do things. That's what I be talking about. If you're going to run PSTA, you got to know what the public is doing and find out what the public is doing. So that's how it works. You can't sit behind these walls and look at a computer all the time. You got to do like the U.S., spy. I go out and see what's really happening, just like Park Street Terminal. That guy been sitting down there. That guy don't hardly, not Park Street, but Parkside Mall. That guy don't hardly be there most of the time. That guy, I go down there all the time. That guy.
Sir, you've gone over your time a little bit. If you can
All
wrap
right.
it up. Your point well made on the paper surveys. I don't think we're anywhere near a discussion of fare increase, but getting the paper surveys, I think, is a valid point.
Oh, yeah.
So I
The
think
survey
you
that
have
was
to redo
distributed
the
was
survey.
not for a fare increase.
So I think you
Has
have to redo
will
the
not
survey.
be a fare increase.
Well, that was stated on your thing, though.
Thank you, sir.
But I think you have to go redo your survey.
Okay. Next is Phil Compton.
Good morning. Phil Compton.
Good morning.
Senior Organizing Representative for Sierra Club's Florida Healthy Air Campaign, 1990 Central Avenue, St. Petersburg. Well, the election's over. Some of us haven't come to terms with that yet, apparently, but election is over. And the need's still there. Most communities have to talk about this more than once before they move forward. We're in the majority there. This need is still there. A few weeks ago, something happened that is going to be a factor in our choices here and what do we decide to do. The U.S. EPA is discussing now, and they're now in a period of public comment on a new rule related to our air quality, smog, ground level ozone. We are at a higher level here in Pinellas County than may be allowed in the future because we're at a higher level here for smog at many days than is healthy for children with asthma and seniors with COPD. It's not so bad that you can see it. It's not so bad that you can smell it. We're not Los Angeles. But we're one of those communities that may very well need to do some things to clean up air. So what do we do? Well, you can point your finger at Duke and say, well, clean up your coal-fired power plants, and that's part of the problem. But here, with the fact that we are so dependent on our cars, you got to point three fingers back at yourself. Our tailpipes are just as significant a source of smog as is Duke and any other source. We ourselves can't make cars cleaner. They're slowly getting cleaner, but we may need to do some other things. We may need to end our status as the only metropolitan area in the United States that doesn't offer majority of its citizens an option that happens to not put out as much pollution. I really do applaud the fact that over the last several years, the buses that you have bought have been much cleaner. There are new buses coming out almost every day, electric buses, cleaner diesel buses. But there are always options that you can choose to clean up your air. If this community fails to act in the years going forward, we may be faced with a loss of federal highway funds. That's an extreme case. I don't think that's going to happen, but that is the kind of situation that we're going, because the standard that we've been living in under does not protect the health of children with asthma. And by the way, kids with asthma, the serious problems that they face, going to all children's emergency room, staying home when they're sick, it's the number one source, number one reason any kid ever misses school. This is a problem that we have. It's finally being addressed at the national level by the EPA, and it affects us here. So you are part of the solution, or you're part of the problem. It's a tough choice that you have. It's not easy. I'm glad you're looking at this and going on the retreat. And just want you to know that Sierra Club maintains its commitment to be a participant in finding a solution that cleans up air for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. We appreciate it. The last card that I have on the public comment is MJ Benz.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Mr. Miller's office before, so he probably knows me. I have many problems with the buses. I ride the bus. But this morning, my issue is the bus pass. I am a retired person. I have no vehicle. I depend on PSTA. I have a limited income, so I have Medicare, so I get the 31-day bus pass. The second time you use it, the date that expires starts disappearing. This one is supposed to be good until December 13th, and I've been having problems with drivers that tell me that this is no good because the computer says it's no good. Okay, it's still good, but no one can prove it. And last summer I had an incident. A driver told me, you either pay the fare or I'm taking your pass. Well, I only had 1 day left on that one, so I let him have it, and I told him where he could stick it. My point is, I would appreciate if y'all would find some other way for us to use these. And I put this in the protective PSTA sleeve every time I get through using it. So the only contact it has is with your computer, and it scratches it to the point where the computer won't accept it. And I'd appreciate if y'all would figure out some way to fix this so we wouldn't have this problem.
Okay.
We who ride your bus every day.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Is there someone she can speak with now? Are you leaving?
Might be able to find a remedy for your
Was that-
December 13th pass.
So that was a physical problem with the magnetic band on there?
Yeah, and to her point, of course, we are doing a regional fare collection smart card project that will remedy that problem that she has.
Okay. Well, we have no other cards under public comment. Commissioner Latvala is not here, so we'll move that one to a future meeting. Commissioner Latvala is not in the audience, correct? Okay. No, sir. So next, let's move on to item 4A, our Transit Riders Advisory Committee. Chairman Mann. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Chairman Welch, Mr. Miller, esteemed board members, the Transit Riders Advisory Committee met on November 18th. We had a presentation from Cassandra Borchers, who is Chief Development Officer, regarding the next steps post-Greenlight Pinellas for both immediate planning and long range. We also had a presentation from Ross Silvers, our mobility manager, regarding the homeless initiative that we've been working on inside of TRAC and with staff at PSTA. The PSTA staff has developed a database of resources that can be distributed, information that can be distributed to individuals who may be experiencing homelessness or other issues. That database has now been compiled, and our next step is to determine the best methods of distribution, and that's something we'll be taking up in January. Rita Hoffman, the PSTA statistical data manager, addressed the survey that was just being discussed that was going out to riders regarding our smart card technologies and other types of fare passes, and asked for our feedback on that survey, and we were allowed to provide that prior to its release. And then finally, Chris Cochran, this PSTA senior manager, presented a overview of the 2014 Title VI program and policies, gave us an update on the compliance from the PSTA regarding the service requirements and policy that they currently that you currently have. And per the prior scheduling, there will not be a December TRAC meeting. So, if there's any questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Y'all are doing great work as usual. Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great holiday. Okay, we will move the MPO LCB update to the next meeting. Commissioner Johnson is not here. That moves us to the consent agenda. I need to pull item 5D. Is there a motion for the balance of the consent?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 5D is our 2015 board meeting schedule. Are there any board comments on this? We have 2 public comments. Okay, sure, go ahead.
Per the board's last meeting and discussion about our calendar, we have ensured, number one, that it does not conflict with the Pinellas School spring break, the March meeting. And at the request of Chair Welch, we have reduced the number of nighttime or evening meetings from 4 to 2. The September PSTA meeting has now been moved to September 23rd, and that will duplicate or be also the second budget required evening budget public hearing at 6 o'clock. So the first budget public hearing will be the week prior, September 16th, and then the PSTA board meeting in September, and the final budget hearing will be on the 23rd. That way, it changes from what we had in the past, where we had 2 standalone evening meetings plus 2 evening budget meetings, and now combine them. So those are the 2 things on the meetings.
And we had board agreement on doing that. Anybody have heartburn on that? Okay. Let's move to the public comments on this item. First is Tom Rask. Okay, Devin Henderson.
Once again, Devin Henderson, Radio St. Pete, radiostpete.com. Let me just start by saying I'm highly perturbed to hear that you guys are cutting the evening meetings. As you all well know, people have to work, and the evening meetings are, in particular, when the public can really come and express their thoughts to you all. I know me, being I was a full-time student, I could only attend evening board meetings, and those are the times I was able to express my concern. Now, there's several members of the board, especially Patricia Johnson, who hasn't been to an evening board meeting in 2 years. And there's others that don't attend the evening meetings regularly either. I don't know why you guys would feel the need to cut those meetings. Those are, in my opinion, the most important meetings that you guys have, because that is when the public can really come and talk to you guys. They cannot come right now. They're at work. Only those of us who are blessed to be able to come at this time do it. And I don't know if you notice, I noticed that in the evening board meetings, it seems that the public comments are more abundant and more in detail, and oftentimes are helpful. Well, they're helpful to me. Sometimes it doesn't seem like you guys pay attention when people are talking, to be honest with you. Many of you keep your head down and your hands on your head and all kinds of things. Just very, very unprofessional, and some of you give off the attitude that you just really don't care. And Mr. Ben Diamond, for one, just, I don't understand.
Please speak to the issue, sir.
Oh, yeah, I'm speaking to the issue. That's exactly what I'm doing. Why would you guys cut the most important board meetings to the county? This is, I don't want to respond to that. I'm talking.
You're asking a question. I'll answer when you're done.
When I'm finished, correct. So, I don't understand. Why don't you guys make the changes in your own schedules and maybe cut some of these morning ones and come more in the evening? Why don't you schedule them all in the evening so the public always has a chance to see you guys, to hear you guys, to talk to you guys, to see who comes in late, to see who slouches, to see who doesn't look the public in their eyes when they comment, so they can see this kind of stuff. I know, because I'm an activist in the community, that people like these meetings. They like to be able to have their voice heard, even if they don't have anything to say that month. They like at least that they have the opportunity to be heard. Many people in our county cannot come during the day. I urge you guys to reconsider that decision and start thinking about your constituents. Start thinking about the residents of this county for once. The evening meetings are important to the county, they're important to the public, they're important to this organization, and they should be important to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Mr. Rask just address some of your questions, it was this board that added evening meetings specifically for that purpose. And what we've seen is that we have not received the public attendance at those evening meetings to justify it. In addition to that, some folks that use the bus to get here have complained that the buses don't run late enough for them to get back home after an evening meeting. So it's been transit riders who've asked us to move it back to the daytime. In fact, we had one citizen who asked us to move it to 2 p.m. Because the buses don't run late enough for her to attend the meetings and then get back home. So it was the intent of this board. That's why we added the evening meetings to get more public participation, but that just has not happened. Now let me finish, Devin. Let me finish. I don't cut you off. Let me finish. Our meetings are televised. Are our meetings available via streaming video?
Soon to be.
If it's not, we need to do that as well. But we want folks to be involved and participate in these meetings. That's why we added the evening meetings in the first place. We are still retaining 2 evening meetings under this format. Mr. Rask.
Hello, Tom Rask, Unincorporated County. I'm sorry I wasn't in the room. I was speaking to your COO. He asked to speak to me out in the lobby. So maybe I missed something. I heard a comment about that your attorney, I apologize for infringing on your time, but did you discuss whether there's a requirement for 2 evening meetings?
No.
Okay, there is a requirement for 2 evening meetings. It's right in your board rules, Rule 2.05. The regular meetings normally will be held at 9 a.m., except that 2 of the board's regular meetings during each calendar year shall start at 6 p.m. You have to have 2 evening meetings. I don't think you have a choice. Now, maybe some tortured explanation can be given for why you don't need to have 2 evening meetings, but I agree with Mr. Henderson's sentiment that you can't see everything on video. You can't see who arrives late. You can't see who's playing with their Facebook account or on their phone. Or I didn't mean to go there, but sometimes, we've even documented where people have been on Facebook while in PSTA meetings. In any event, sometimes board members are arriving late, not paying attention, and the public should see this. I really wish you would make it so that more of the meetings could be in the evenings so you could hear from people. Maybe make it 5 o'clock. I mean, I saw a PSTA bus running at 8 on a Saturday evening. I don't see what the problem is. They can come in and make the comments. This really, assuming I'm correct about the board rule, this touches on why there's so many people who are unhappy with PSTA. Despite any polling, Mr. Miller talked in a planning committee meeting about polling he had been told about, not seen. I took that as, don't make a public records request for it because I don't have that poll. We all know what poll it was. It was the Tampa Bay Partnership poll, which we don't know the methodology. We don't know the voter breakdown. We only know what Tampa Bay Partnership wants to tell us about that poll. I don't think that people are satisfied with PSTA. If they know how it's being run, how frankly poorly it's being run, they will not be happy. Just as we said from the get-go about Greenlight Pinellas, that the more people learn about the plan, the less they like it. PSTA needs serious reform from top to bottom. As I said earlier, we're here to see what's going to happen next. That's, I think, why most of your opponents are here. So I'm going to wrap up. R.B. Johnson served for 3 years, was termed out. Mr. Danner served for 2 years and was termed out. My understanding is you're now going to have a new chairman who's choosing to step down. That's great, because we don't want to have this controversial discussion all the time where we're talking about fluoride, parody videos, and other things. We want to talk about transit.
Time is up,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Rask. And it must be a Christmas miracle that you and I agree on this. But let me just state it a little bit differently. I'm not stepping down. I am completing my term. as chairman. And when I was elected last year, I made it very clear during the meeting that I would serve for 1 year. I think it's healthy that the leadership be refreshed every year. In fact, that's in the nominating committee recommendation. It's worked well for the county commission. Every board I've been on, the chair rotates every year. So we agree on that one point, and that might be our Christmas miracle. Let's go back to your point about the 2 evening meetings. Do the 2 trim hearings meet that requirement? And I'm asking the council or CEO.
Just to be clear, we will still have 2 evening PSTA board meetings with public comment, just like the one we're having right now, one in April and one in September, like we have had. We will have 2 evening meetings, but the September 23rd.
It's only September. The 2 September meetings.
Is that right? It's only April?
It's
It's only September?
The 2 September public hearings are 6 p.m. Those are the trim hearings. Does that meet the requirement for 2 evening public meetings?
Okay. I don't know. I'll have to ask Alan.
Well, I believe that I have drafted a change to the rules and regulations that will be coming to the board that if the board approves the schedule, we'll be coming back to the board to clarify the language to reflect the action of the board today. But I've given that to Ms. Garofalo. Rachel, is that correct? That'll be on the next agenda?
Okay, well, how about if we approve the dates and come back and clarify the evening meeting requirement next month? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rass, for bringing that to our attention. Is there a motion? Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair.
I just wanted to make a comment that I was one of them that suggested that we consolidate the second budget hearing with our regular evening meeting so that members of the public wouldn't have to come and be here for both of those meetings, and it would be better use of our time as well. I know that's the practice that we use at the City of Clearwater, but that was just to consolidate 2 meetings that were a week apart, and I thought that was better use of the public's time and your investment in the board. And so I just wanted to clarify that we're consolidating 2 meetings that we're required to have, one with our regular monthly board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Okay, so we do have a motion to approve the dates, and we'll come back and clarify if we need an additional evening meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Takes us now to our action item, our board officers and committee appointments. The nominating committee did meet and has recommendations for you, and our nominating chair, Commissioner Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nominating board met on December 3rd, and we discussed the officers and also the appointments to the committees. To the comment, the discussion was had about the chair serving 1-year term to allow for everybody up here maybe get an opportunity to serve as chair if they so desire. I don't know if we need any action on that because that was discussed, but it's not in the backup material, Mr. Chair.
It's on the electronic version.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I'm looking at the printed version. Excuse me. But we met, and the following. Don't have this. I was talking about what we mentioned about the chairmanship. We met, and the following board and officer committee recommendations are as follows. For the chair, we have Commissioner Bill Johnson, Vice Chair Julie Bujowski, Secretary Treasurer will be Janet Long. I'm sorry, it was up top. I made a note on the bottom. The nominating committee recommended the PSTA chair serve 1 year as chair with the expectation that the vice chair will succeed them in the following year, and the Secretary Treasurer will follow that year. The PSTA committees are as follows. The Planning Committee, which meets the 3rd Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Recommendations are Julie Bujowski, Ken Welch, Mark Dighton, Janet Long, Darden Rice, and the alternate would be Patty Johnson. The recommendations for Finance Committee, which meets the third Wednesday at 9 a.m., is Joe Barkley, Mark Dighton, and Brian Scott. We have 2 spots to be determined at the present time. The legislative recommendations, which meets on the first Wednesday at 9:30 a.m., is Darden Rice, Wingate Newton, Ben Diamond, Doug Beavis, and we have 1 to be determined. The recommendations for Personnel Committee, which is 2 to 3, they meet 2 to 3 times a year. We have Bill Johnson, Julie Bujowski, Janet Long, Wingate Newton, and Joe Barkley. The recommendations for Nominating Committee varies, and the members are Wingate Newton, Ken Welch, Patty Johnson, Janet Long, and we have 1 to be determined. And the recommendations for the MPO-LCB is Patty Johnson. Do we need to have a formal action of that 1 year? Is that in here? Would that be in the motion, which I can't make? I'm just.
Why don't we separate that?
Okay, we'll sub that out, but absent of the chairmanship term, is there a motion for the committee members?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Everyone willing to serve on those committees? We will have some new members next year. I know our chair-elect of the commission, Commissioner Maroney, is leaving us, and he'll be making appointments, and we'll have other folks added to the board and some leaving. And that's what the TBDs are. So if there are no questions or comments, yes.
Quick question. Those new folks coming on the board, will they have an opportunity to get on these boards as well? Is it only in those to be determined slots? Because I mean, I'm sure maybe 1 or 2 of them might be interested in planning as well, but
I think, at least it's my thought is to schedule another nominating committee meeting sometime in early January and discuss that.
And if I might respond to that,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. The planning committee in itself, as you can see, they had Patty as an alternate. They were looking at the bylaws and how big could that be? So everybody the need is great for that one committee. We just have spots which will be going off. I know Commissioner Smith is going to be cycling off. So he left a void on legislative and I think another area. So we're trying to at least get people.
finance.
Okay, legislative and finance, but we're trying to leave those spots open that people have not shown interest in. But we try to address, I think, everybody that showed interest or emailed or contacted Brad about where they wanted to be.
Yeah, and
in
I
the
was
offices.
just asking with
Yes.
those new folks coming in January.
The only way they would get to be planning is someone is willing to cycle off from the people we're recommending now. Because we got I think Patty as an alternate in planning, but I don't know if we're going to add another member or that's going to stay as an alternate. So we have a quorum. Because the reason I read the time these committees meet is because a lot of them meet monthly, and a lot of people can't because of other obligations in their municipalities. They can't make those meetings. So.
All right, well, I just throw it out there so when the nominating committee does meet, they have a discussion point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have Mr. Vice Chair.
The purpose of the committees is to facilitate the board business, and I would think that if the board members choose and request to meet at a different time, that could be accommodated.
Yeah.
So I think there's some flexibility in this as we move along and we get the new board members in, and there's some desire to change. I would hope that the nominating committee could take those considerations into
consideration.
Yeah.
The other nomination is the MPO, our representative to the MPO. The mayor, Julie Bujowski, has been doing a great job on that. It's just not on the list, and I didn't know whether that was an oversight or if that was.
No, it was not. The chair will address it.
The committees that Ms. Bugasi was on they were left. We tabled those because we didn't know that we'll have information. We don't know if she's going to be back as a person On the NPO, the Dunedin mayor normally sits on the NPO, and Mr. Rajowski was representative for PSTA on the NPO. But I don't know if the mayor is going to be on there or
It's not. I'm
see,
not.
I don't know what's. I mean, so we didn't know that at the time. That's why Brad has scheduled another meeting. We will address whatever things that happen.
And I did express interest in the email that you requested a month ago or whatever. It was my request
we discussed
interest.
it at
We
the
just
meeting.
didn't know if I was going to be reappointed to
Right.
PSTA, and now that I do know that formally from my commission, then yes, I would still be interested in serving on MPO.
We would have that discussion in the next nominating. We didn't have the information at that time. We went off the information that we had. That's why the committees you do not see are not on the page, because we didn't have enough information to fill them. We could have filled them, but the person that was I guess in limbo, because we didn't know, would not have had the opportunity to participate. So we just tabled that until we get updated information, and we have that now. To your question, Mr. Chair or Vice Chair, about the times on the legislative committee, we got together as a committee and moved that from 9 to 9:30. I think Mr. Maroney it lined up better for Commissioner Maroney. So I guess whoever the chair or whoever in that committee, I guess they can meet. If I'm all right, Brad, they can meet whenever they want, as long as it's on that day, and it's noticed because the public may need to be there because it's sunshine.
Okay. Correct. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Chair-elect?
Yeah, we have one more item. Do we have again, it's the nominating committee recommends that the PSTA chair serve as 1 year as chair, with this expectation that the vice chair will succeed them. Following year, the secretary treasurer would follow that individual. Is there a motion?
Well, let me ask.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do we need to adopt that as part of our?
Bylaws or?
Our
Can we
procedures.
just, yeah.
I mean, you can do it by motion, or we can amend the
Okay,
rules
so-
and regulations.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
You guys, I'm sorry.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
I have a question.
Yes.
In the event, since we all serve as you mentioned earlier, in the event that we all serve at the, for our cities first, and if in fact that person who would be next in line were not to be reelected, do we have a procedure to replace that person in the event of someone not continuing to be on the PSTA board as a result of failure to be reelected in their own city?
The paragraph is following that. This is nominating committee recommends PSTA chair serve 1 year with the expectation that the vice chair would succeed, and then the secretary. So if a person drops out, they just move up.
Right. Or you have a new nominating process.
Right, and that would be through the nominating committee, but that's, I guess it's spelled out in here because, they can't jump around. I guess you can nominate them when you want it, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Rice?
Yeah, I think I read this as a suggestion or a best practice, but I don't necessarily read this language as being a rigid rule that must be followed, and I would not support that because on one hand, I think it certainly makes sense to have a pipeline of leadership, but there may be, as Commissioner Barkley mentioned, there may be some external circumstances that would affect that pipeline, and there may also be new board members who join PSTA who may show, a proclivity for board leadership that I think we should be flexible to make those decisions on a yearly election basis.
So is the language okay? The recommends language?
Yeah,
satisfy
that would be fine, but nothing that would be rigid or binding.
Well, I think that
And
that is what this does. You
Okay.
still have to have an election every year.
Right.
It's a recommendation from the nominating committee. Kind of.
Okay.
That's the way I'm reading it.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, and that's the purpose of, I guess, the paragraph, because you do have people cycling on and off. You do have different things that come up. Sometimes it's out of their control. And that would allow Ms. Rice for a new member to probably become chair quicker. So, and we follow the same thing, I think, at the National League of Cities and also the Florida League, whereas you have a second vice president, but if that person does not get reelected, just keep it moving. But whatever the pledge of the body. I'll support.
Everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
As a recommendation? Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Wait, whoa, 1 second.
For the nominating committee recommendation for the,
Who motion, who second?
who moved that?
I don't think anybody did.
Okay, can someone move that recommendation?
Move approval.
Okay.
I moved. So moved.
Commissioner Rice, Commissioner Dighton. Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I want to congratulate our chair-elect, vice chair-elect, secretary treasurer-elect. Ms. Rice, as a nominating committee member, I was glad to see your name and hope to see it in the future again. We'll now move to our board planning workshop, and I sent y'all a memo, I think, on November 9th that just kind of talked about, in general, our need to get together, and we said we'd have this retreat, this work session, regardless of the outcome of the green light, to kind of reset, refresh our financial projections, and kind of map out strategies and goals, both long-term and short-term. I think this is the first of several of these. It's not going to be a one-shot deal, but we just kind of want to get your consensus on this broad outline for the January 21st workshop, and then our incoming chair will work with Brad to finalize that. And so, Brad?
Yes, good morning. At your places, and I think there was extra copies maybe in the audience, is a outline or an agenda, a draft agenda for a workshop of the PSTA board, now recommended to be on Wednesday, January 21st, 2015, from 9 through a working lunch ending about 1:30. As Commissioner Welch described, we've been discussing this and trying to map out exactly what such a discussion might be. And as he said, I think what we're trying to set this up as is the first of, no doubt, multiple discussions by the PSTA board. And so we have cut it back from a full day retreat or something like that to a half day. And really, I think it would be couched best as a orientation to the PSTA board, for the PSTA board to discuss and to revisit many of the plans that were already done as part of the Greenlight Pinellas plan. The Greenlight Pinellas, while November 4th was not necessarily a positive day for PSTA's finances, what Greenlight Pinellas in the process did was provide a focus for the PSTA board and the PSTA organization that we need to come up with something, a new one. I have spoken to, I think, almost every board member since the referendum, and there's a lot of different discussions. And I know there's other council members and commissioners that are not on PSTA that have thoughts and opinions. We're gonna try to. We know that the state legislators have opinions about what we do, and so this first January 21st meeting is more of a time for you all as a board to sort of reflect on Greenlight, and then get some updated information from me and my staff on the financial picture as we move forward with PSTA. So looking at this agenda, you see number one, and again, as we know, we have two new county commissioners joining PSTA, Commissioners Eggers and Gerard, and I believe we're going to have a new representative from Largo as Commissioner Smith leads us. And then Commissioner Beavis, our Mayor Beavis, has been on PSTA before, but he was not all here during the Greenlight process to develop that. So there's sort of some orientation process, I think, for all of us. What we've been presenting, as the board members know, for a while is a multi-year budget forecast for PSTA that shows that we have sufficient reserves to maintain our current level of service now and into the future somewhat. But we are revising all those projections and we'll be prepared to present those to the board in January to see exactly what our revised forecasts look like out into the future. There's some very positive things that have occurred. Fuel is way down, and that's awesome. Hopefully that will continue. OPEC will keep churning out the oil. Sorry, Phil, about that comment. And then, but there are some negative things too. We are taking a hard look at our capital program and our needed bus replacements. We were blessed to have Congressman Bill Young in place, who provided all those blue buses you see out there with huge earmarks. He funded those buses that we have, and without earmarks, the federal government, we are going to be strapped with our regular formula funds coming from the feds to replace the buses we have. And so we're likely going to have to look at using our own local money, local dollars, to replace the buses. So we're working all that into the mix. What we're projecting at this point, and what we're going to discuss, is that regardless, PSTA's service, without any additional revenue source or revenues, is going to have to be reduced and cut back, perhaps dramatically, as much as 25 or 30%. Now, the way we do that is very important. We want to make sure we provide the best possible service and the most efficient service to our customers. And the board already has a detailed plan on how they might go about that, developed about a year and a half ago, called the No New Revenue Scenario. And that does incorporate a reduction, a substantial reduction, but exactly how that is done, we will discuss that as well. Of course, one of the things that has to be in the mix is for PSTA to look internally at all of its operations and to make sure that it is absolutely the most efficient it can be. And I've already started leading a comprehensive look at that with my staff. PSTA staff is eager to get going on this. They want to provide the best service they possibly can. They've identified something like 98 suggestions on how we might save money. All sorts of very interesting ideas are coming out, and we're getting more. My email inbox is filling up even this morning. So again, that's sort of the context of what we expect to talk about on this day. We've talked about maybe hiring a facilitator. There's a facilitator the county has used that I believe helped out the county commission reach consensus amongst their members, and maybe we'll try to do something like that down the road. Probably not at this first meeting, but then maybe over the course of the spring.
Thank you, Brad. Just a couple of notes before we get board comments. I would, and just looking at this is going to be maybe 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So I would personally not want to spend a whole lot of time on number 2. Rehashing green light. We've done that. There's been a lot of post-analysis on it. We've got a job in front of us, so it's good to go over some of that stuff, but I would like to spend most of the time focusing on the new financial projections, the refreshed financial projections, and then trying to start coming to consensus on the path forward in terms of, do we do the court versus the coverage under the community bus plan? Do we look at other options, legislative options? Spend most of the time on that, but this is definitely going to take more than one board workshop. I would add to 5A that, as Brad said, it's not just revenue options, it's expense options as well. We've got to look at both sides of that chart, and that should be throughout our analysis. I'll start at the end. Any comments? Commissioner Long, did I see your hand?
Yes, and with just one caveat that I disagree a little bit with where Brad was going. I really, because I participated in them and I see how valuable it is, and we have so much to cover, I really think it would be beneficial if we had a facilitator like the one we've used at our collaborative labs, because otherwise, with a large group like this, it's very easy to get all over the board and get way off track. And so, in an effort to really get the biggest bang out of the buck for the time that we're gonna be there, I would strongly recommend that we have a facilitator.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. I agree with that.
Are we not using a facilitator?
Well, Brad mentioned perhaps not for January 21st, but I think
I did miss that.
it would be, when the county, just to give you some additional insight on what Brad was referring to, when the county was going through our massive budget reductions a few years ago, we went through this process with the facilitator, John Streetmatter, who was able to forge consensus not only with the county commission, and we were very diverse in opinion back then, but also with all the constitutional officers. And we were all able to say, these are the goals, these are the priorities that we need to maintain even as we're cutting the budget. And he walked us through that. And I think we need that kind of facilitator for a board of 15 as we try to, this is really the first meeting we've had like this, where we get a chance just to talk about what are our collective goals as a group. So I think that's a point well made, Commissioner Long. Even if we can't do it on the 21st, I would think you move that date to a date that works with the facilitator. So. Okay, other comments on this side? Commissioner Newton?
Yes, I want to, first I want to thank Ms. Barber publicly. I called her on election night. I know she was busy doing interviews. It ran a good campaign, and the voters spoke. From the outset, I always say that you never should fear the outcome of the vote. Those are the people that put us up here. And I appreciate everybody who think it not robbery to offer their self up for crucial examination and providing the opportunity to serve. It's not easy, and we heard a lot of comments this morning. It's a process that we got to move forward with. I had the opportunity to spend a workshop with the Transportation Secretary of State, Mr. Brandis, at Florida League of Cities conference, and he chaired a committee talking about Uber, Lyft, those new other technologies that they have. He's very interested in trying to find a way to move forward and address our transportation need, because the need is still real. The Green Light Pinellas plan was just that. It's a plan to address the transportation needs of this county. Absent of the vote, the need doesn't go away. You heard about the addresses in some of the streets came up, MLK, 22nd Avenue South. Those are a lot of people that I represent in those areas. That's also an area that the countywide poverty study has found out is one of the areas of the hardest hit. These are individuals that depend on this bus service that's getting ready to be cut. So while everybody said that was a scare tactic, now the reality is going to set in. The same people that's trying to pull this stuff up out of poverty by working late and having the ability to get around, to get back and forth to school because a degree is the new currency, are not going to be hindered from doing just that. So it may require more subsidies, more assistance. I know what the transportation, public transportation, both the HART, PSTA, and Greyhound meant to me. I know that's why I'm sitting here. There's no other way that my parents could have done it without it. And there's a lot of people that in those areas that will not be having service because we got to provide the best service and cut to the people who can ill afford to have those cuts. So hopefully we could be mindful of that going forward. I know the secretary also spoke about maybe an opportunity of doing something with some funding with the penny for Pinellas. I know people have studied harping on that, but it's all options I think should be on the table to find a way to provide the best transportation we can for the county with other resources that we have. So hopefully the members will be open to something like that. And Mr. Walters right about the expenses too. You have to look at what it costs, you know, because without expenses you have more revenue and vice versa. They both affect each other. So I'm glad you did add. I put a 5B on there because we definitely got to look at that. I'm also happy that Brad has already said that a lot of the employees who actually do the job, they know what it costs and how better to do it. Who better to know how to do the job than the person that's doing it? I have a lot of recommendations. That's going to be critical. And hopefully we'll entertain each and every one of them and see what's feasible and what could be implemented and moving forward. But I welcome the opportunity. I welcome the challenge with the time that I have left. I'm going to do all I can because I know the value of the transportation, and I know what it means to the people who depend on this to be able to get back and forth. So I'm all in.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to this workshop. I believe we do need a facilitator as well. We will also have new folks here to bring, fresh perspective, which I think is always good. I just wanted to ask Brad if he would be so kind, and you may be already talking about doing this, but if you could just redistribute the bus study, the document, and the summary of it, the core versus coverage, as well as there was a set of minutes where we talked about if we did lose green light and what, that discussion that we had. That's not to say we have to maintain that discussion we had, but I think we should have the minutes of when we had that discussion. Because we did have a discussion about it, and I'd like to refresh myself at least as to what we said. And I at least think this is a good step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments on this side? Okay, everybody good with this general format? And then yes, Ms. Vice Chair.
I'm sorry. Just a comment about the specific facilitator. We used the same person in Clearwater, and it took an incredibly lengthy time. I don't know what was different about it there than, and so, but let's.
I'm not going to say it was the council because.
Well, it may have been our council, or it may have been our staff, but just.
You had staff included?
Our senior staff was involved in the discussion.
We had the entire commission, the constitutional officers, and just the administrator and the county attorney. And we worked. It took us several sessions, but we've got a tremendous amount of work done. So if we let him know that time is of the essence and that we want to. And it's up to us to also stay focused during that
Yeah, it took us more than a year to get through that process.
No, it didn't take us that long. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Everybody okay with this format and approach? So let's get well, it's not an action item. We'll just nod heads on that one. Okay, 2015 State Legislative Update from Commissioner Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Legislative Committee met last week. We heard updates from our state lobbyist, the Gray Robinson firm. We discussed our state legislative agenda and draft priorities. We heard a brief update from Ross Silver on the homeless initiative and the map and survey related to that project. And we had I think some very helpful discussions on what we do next post-referendum. And one of the main takeaways from that, and a point that was led by Commissioner Ben Diamond, is we felt like it was necessary and that a good strategic approach would be to look at the parts of the Greenlight Pinellas plan that did have broad general support and support even from our opponents. And clearly, one part of that was the bus rapid transit, and felt like a good direction. The caveat here being that we haven't discussed this at the January 21 retreat yet, but the temperature we took at the committee level was that we thought that looking at BRT and looking at legislative funding to support a pilot program or look at ways to support that would be one prudent way to go forward. We also discussed meeting with the legislative delegation. As chair of the legislative committee, or as the present chair, I'll certainly volunteer to help out with as many of those meetings as I can. But if my fellow commissioners, if you're asked to be part of setting up those meetings or participating in those meetings, that would be very helpful. And we're going there to listen to our fellow elected officials, want to hear their thoughts on the post-referendum and what the directions are. We're not going there to just, tell them what our new direction is, but we really want to listen and get feedback from our House and Senate representatives. So those meetings will happen pretty quickly, and we're also going to be setting up meetings, lobby meetings in Tallahassee, and meeting with our legislators up there as well as planning for trips to D.C. and lobbying on the federal level. Connected with that, we made a point that we want to be sure that we are coordinating our legislative priorities and that we're aware of what other agencies are doing in terms of Pinellas County, T-BARDA, the Chamber of Commerce, the MPO. We definitely want to check in and make sure that there's some coordination, that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. We don't know a whole lot yet. We heard news last week that the Federal Department of Transportation Secretary Assad stepped down. We don't have, that was expected, that was not a surprise, and we don't know yet who will be the next secretary, but I imagine that's, Brad, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but that's something we may not know for several weeks.
Right.
Okay. And let's see. So, and also with our state legislative priorities, we will be continuing our priorities from last year, dealing with the BRT capital funding, pursuing an increase in transit block grant funding, pursuing more funding for the Tampa Bay Regional Fair collection support, looking for funding for the Gateway Park and Ride development. We want to make sure that the multimodal aspect will be included as part of the FDOT work plan for the Howard Franklin Bridge and the State Road 60 funding. And we'll also continue to pursue the community college student fees. Some new things that we will be looking at including will be asking for increased state corridor and service development funds, and also increased funding for our transportation disadvantaged passes. And there was also a discussion about pursuing eliminating the property tax levying power if a sales tax were to be approved, that would be something that could be still addressed given if a referendum proposal ever does come back in the future, that would be something that would already be settled and taken care of, that the county and the PSTA would eliminate its tax levying power. And so I think that was pretty much the gist of our discussion, unless any other commissioners would like to add to that. I move to receive and file this report.
Okay, is there a
this
second?
report.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Commissioner Rice and the committee, thank you for your great work, and I really appreciate your focus on the doable in terms of BRT and other elements of the community bus plan. Thank you for your leadership on that. That now takes us to item 8. Oh, we didn't vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Item 8, reports and correspondence. Mr. Miller?
I would just like to highlight again, maybe a broken record, but on let's see, page 37 of your packet is the report that details all of the activities that the staff is working on. But at the top, it highlights the historic record ridership we had in fiscal year 2014 that we just completed through October. And then in October, we had the highest month ever ridership at PSTA. November was a very strong month. We're not certain yet if it was a record or not. It probably was, and December looks good as well. All the stats are looking very strong. The October hits on our website of 200 and some thousand was a record. I'm not sure if that was due to the referendum. That was the PSTA website that had a record that month. Thought that was notable. And then, of course, what our benchmarking data shows, and what continually seems to be a success, is the real-time information. The customers accessing the trips on the bus through texting from their phone. Texting the bus stop they're at, and then it comes back and tells them the time that the bus is coming. And in fact, several of the staff recommendations on cost-cutting measures suggested scaling back our purchases of paper schedules and posters and stuff like that where we buy, because so many people are now just using electronic means to find out when the bus is coming. So that might be an option in the future. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Brad? Mr. Vice Chair?
There was one I thought was kind of interesting, and it was on page 49, the Awesome Bus Operator Refresher Training. Would you just make a comment about that?
Yes. Another issue that we've identified through the benchmarking, comparing ourselves to other systems, as well as tracking our own numbers, is perhaps that we could do better on our customer service of our operators. And so we have included, the PSTA board included in its FY15 budget additional funds for operator training. And we have named it Awesome, and that stands for something, which I can't recall. But we do have awesome employees, and the theme of the program is to remind those employees how awesome they can be in helping our customers. We have a great manager of this program, Tamika Gunn, and she has been redeployed from our marketing department to work exclusively on training, employee training, and develop this curriculum and embed it into not only new employee training, but refresher training for all of our operators. How they can deal with tough situations that they experience on the bus is maybe what it's focused on.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Any other questions? Did you want to mention this?
I do want to mention that, although I think I'm going to need to confirm that because I'm noticing it myself for the first time.
For the public, we're talking about the Pinellas Park Transit Center grand opening.
Yes, we will be opening the Pinellas Park Transit Center in January. We're trying to get our certificate of occupancy now, so we're potentially targeting January 13th as the ribbon cutting date. I want to confirm that with Commissioner Johnson to make sure her and Pinellas Park's availability on that date.
Okay.
So I'll confirm that.
All right. Anything under future meeting subjects that you want to point out?
Well, again, we're hoping to schedule a nominating committee meeting for the early part of January. We'll also try to schedule an executive committee meeting because, as we touched upon at this meeting, but we've got a number of suggested rules and regulations proposals, amendments that the executive committee might take and recommend to the PSTA board. So we'll try to schedule that. And then the next meeting will be the 21st at Collaborative Labs. There won't be a planning and finance committee meeting on that 21st because we'll have the workshop instead. If we've started talking to the facilitator, and I'll talk to him further if it turns out that we want to change the date of the workshop based on his schedule or whatever, then I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you. Anything under other business? If not, let's move on to board member comments. We'll start with Commissioner Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to join in your comment in welcoming Mayor Beavis back to the board, and I look forward to working with you in the year ahead.
Thanks.
I think it will be a good year for PSTA. I also want to associate myself with Commissioner Newton's comments. I have a lot of thoughts about where we go from here. I think this board workshop in January is the appropriate time to raise those comments, and I'll just say for now that I think it's important that we be innovative and creative, and I'm really glad that Brad, that you are going through the exercise of looking at ways to find administrative expenses and savings because we'll need it. and we'll need to consider those. But I think there are a lot of smart people who care about how we can improve public transit in this county, and they'll want to be heard from, and we want to consider all good ideas. So I'll look forward to that discussion, and wish everyone a happy holiday. So, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Diamond. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'd like to also welcome Commissioner Beavis and bid farewell to Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Maroney. It's been a pleasure to serve with both of you guys, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you around. Looking forward to the meeting on the 21st. We've got a lot of hard work ahead of us, and I think it would be real interesting to really kind of drill down into the expense ratios and the bus group that we belong to, the performance benchmarking group. So I look forward to those discussions and just wish everybody a good holiday season.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner Smith.
First, I'd like to welcome Mayor Beavis to the board. It's a good board to work on, and as you heard, I will be leaving. I was given the opportunity to serve for my city on the MPO/PPC, and it's been a wonderful 2 years working with you all. And my board is putting forward also that I be replaced by Commissioner Holmes, who volunteered his services to serve for the rest of my tenure. And I wish you all the best of luck, and hope I can stay in contact with many of you, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Thank you.
We flat your tires.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Rice.
Welcome, Mayor Beavis. I look forward to working with you on the board as well, and I'm going to miss you, Commissioner Maroney, on this board, but I know you're not going to be that far away, and as well as I'm going to miss you, Michael. I also just want to real quick thank Barbara Hazelden. I picked up on your comments that you're here to work with us on strengthening the bus system, and I heard what I felt was a sincere statement to work with us on that, and I appreciate that. Not all conflict is bad. There's good conflict and bad conflict, and the good conflict brings to the surface the information and what we need to work together to provide the people of Pinellas County the best bus service we can provide. There is bad conflict, and I heard that in other places today, not from Ms. Hazelden necessarily, but the bad conflict is conflict that comes out of vindictiveness, ego, and just blaming each other. So I hope that as we continue to all work together, we stay positive and keep in mind what type of conflict is truly productive and what type of conflict serves to only be corrosive and promote a continued dysfunction. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank everybody that participated in the electoral process and thought it not robbery to go out and vote. In the city of St. Petersburg, we have 117,300 registered voters. And I think in the last mayoral election, we had about maybe 38,000 people vote. So we got people that can vote, and I'm glad the ones that did voted. That said, they voted against a tax. And when I read that statement on the ballot, even on my mail-in ballot, it asked me did I want to increase the tax on myself. And it brought me pause, but knowing what I knew, I voted to support it. But the layperson in a ballot box looking at that would say, do I want to tax myself? You know, and the answer probably would be no. I know that we could not put a dual subject on the ballot question. So when we were telling people that the ad valorem on their house goes away, like for instance, I contribute a small amount, but if you got a larger value house, you had an instant savings, and it'd be more fair because everybody would have paid a portion, even the tourists that come and enjoy our beautiful city, beaches, hotels, and restaurants. It was, you couldn't put that on there. And then when we said that and people went and looked, it was like we lied because that was nowhere on that ballot because you couldn't have a dual subject. But the Green Light Pinellas plan, the transportation plan in itself is not what they voted against. They voted against a tax. And a lot of people they don't like taxes, they don't want taxes. But we still have a problem with transportation, mass transit. I signed on to try to help with that problem, to be a part of the solution. And I'm going to continue to do that We have great data. We have great plans that have been tested through numerous scenarios. And it's my hope that we can get right on it, like the BRT and also the grid system. So we're not running buses. Every bus got to go one place. That'll definitely save a lot of money and gas. So it's just going forward that we look at all options and try to make sure we get everything we can to improve and help the people that's probably going to suffer the most through this outcome. I want to also take an opportunity to welcome Mayor Beavis and thank my colleague, Mr. Maroney. I know he won't go far. And also Mr. Smith. I know he was giggling in the nominating committee about helping the MPO, but I'll see him on MPO. But thank you for your service. A lot of people think it's easy. We make ourselves public targets, but it's not. And we have emotions, we have feelings, and we get upset too, but fortunately we can't show it. Because we're public servants, so we're supposed to take everything we get and smile. So I'll leave it there. But I want to also thank we have 24 awesome employees. I want to thank them. It was 22 bus operators and 2 customer service reps. And bear with me while I hose up your name in only the way I can do it. The first one is Isha Abram. I'm going to say Isha Abram, it's probably wrong. Having great customer service skills, that's the bus operator. Robert Ollygood, outstanding customer service skills. Flo Bell, safe and helpful driver. Leonard Bove, friendly, fantastic driver. George Carasso, kind, safe, and helpful driver. Kurt Chadwick, safe, professional, and fantastic driver. Lorraine Frank, helpful, nice, kind driver. Asia Holmes, friendly, helpful, professional. Charity Jones, nice, kind, helpful, great attitude. Jim Jocelyn, excellent driver. Miguel Linares, informative, very helpful driver. Debbie McCaskill, kind, safe, pleasant driver. Daniel Ortiz, awesome driver. So we got awesome employees. Deborah Pontini, friendly, kind, helpful driver. Patrick Ralston, patient, safe, and professional driver. Ismael Rodriguez, kind, courteous, helpful driver. Robert Rodriguez, friendly, kind, and professional driver. Sebastian Ruiz, polite, professional, positive attitude. Johnny Sprackley, polite, kind, and courteous driver. David Taylor, good, kind, and courteous driver. Angela Tiggs, friendly and helpful driver. And Donald Wilson, kind, nice, and friendly driver. We have 2 customer service representatives. Yvonne Rambert, helpful, patient, and a great employee. And Rosalind Mims, wonderful, patient, and helpful employee. I want to thank all the employees. I mean, again, you guys are PSTA. You're the people that our end users interact with every day. So you represent us. We're just the board and the CEOs and the people behind the scenes. You actually meet with these people who utilize our service. So I would hope that you would stay positive. Communicate to them that we're working on it. You know, it didn't go the way that it was hoped that it would have went with later services and all, but we're going to do all we can to provide the best with what we got. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to tell you all that I am very excited that my colleagues in Dunedin reappointed me back to PSTA this year. So I look forward to serving with everyone here in this new year of fresh starts. I also want to thank the nomination committee and your all subsequent support in nominating me to be your vice chair. I look forward to being a good support system for you, Chair-elect Johnson. Mr. Smith and Maroney, it's been a pleasure serving with both of you. Michael, this is how I got to know you, and I've enjoyed that very much. And I look forward to continuing to be have a nice working relationship with you. I'll always have one with you down there, Mr. Barney. And Mr. Beavis, you and I used to sit next to each other down
Yes,
there,
we
so
did.
I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you.
And I want to wish everyone here, my colleagues and folks in the audience and anybody listening, a very happy holiday season and a wonderful new year.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair-elect. Mr. Chair-elect.
Thank you. Again, welcome, Mayor Beavis.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on board. To Commissioner Smith and Chairman Maroney, it's been nice to have you here, and I think you've contributed significantly over the last several months. Congratulations to Mayor Bajalski on your reelection.
Thank you.
Not reelection, your election to mayor, significant accomplishment.
Thank you.
I would just share that I recently heard a presentation by Don Skelton on the history behind the financing for Sunrail and also Tri-Rail. And I don't know if that information is available electronically, but if it is, I think it would be useful to distribute that. And I too would like to second Ms. Rice's comments about working with the folks that were on the other side of the last election, and particularly Ms. Hazelton. Thank you for your comments today. Regarding the honor of being elected chair of this board, I thank you for that. I have been around PSTA for a long time, since May of 2001. Okay, there were a couple of short times when I was off for one reason or the other. But during that time, I've observed incredible progress at PSTA. And I believe that the rate of improvement has been increasing in the last several years. Yet we need to continue that progress, to continue to refine our processes and be innovative in our efforts and our use of technologies. PSTA is doing that today. I ask you to talk about the awesome bus refresher training, because I think that is on that path as well. Our job is to look forward and learn from the election results, and that's, of course, the subject of our upcoming work session. And as I have said previously, when I traveled, I always like to visit the transit agency. And I think I've been to 15 other agencies around the country, and many of them have been in the place that we are today. As for next year, I agree with the writing of John Carver that the job of the chairman is first to facilitate the business of the board. We are strongest when we are working as a collegial body. We will have differences, but we will continue, and I hope we will continue to look for areas of consensus and move forward on those. I must say that my biggest concern is to ensure that we fully utilize the strengths of each board member. We must be open, transparent, accountable, and of course do this all within the sunshine. But doing that sometimes makes us look a little bit disorganized, and that's part of the process. That said, I would like to thank all of you, and especially Chairman Welsh, who I've had the honor of sitting beside for the last year. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair-elect, and we look forward to working with you next year. Before I move to the right, Commissioner Long, did you have any comments?
Just very briefly, Chair, I want to thank you for your leadership through some very difficult moments this past year. I especially want to say farewell to Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Maroney. I'll see you
Shortly.
Welcome, Mayor Beavis. I look forward to working with you and getting to know you better. And I am grateful for the sentiment I've heard this morning about those members of our community that weren't supportive of Greenlight, because I think as elected officials, most of us anyway are. we are here to represent everyone in our community, and everyone in our community lives here, and I do honor and respect the fact that they would like this to be the best place on earth to live and raise a family and work and play. So together, I think we can move forward and just find a better way. Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year. We'll see you next year.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Mayor Beavis.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for all the warm welcomes, and Chair Maroney and Commissioner Smith, good year for 2015, and as everybody says, I'm sure I'll see you soon. I don't know why we all laugh when we mention your name. I mean that in the best of way. Congratulations to everybody for the new board moving forward. I'm excited to be back on it. I made a couple of notes looking back. I guess it's been about 2 years. And we were discussing ridership at the time when I was on the PSTA board and the increase in it and why we thought, because we're all so smart, why we thought it was. And we looked at, gas prices approaching $5 a gallon, and we thought that that was it. And it turns out that it's now where we may be having gas under $2, and ridership continues to grow. So I think it's encouraging to transit in general that people are finding ways to use it and ride it. I tried to see if I still had the app when I was on the board and we were talking about social media, and I think we had just launched the social media app, and they were installing the GPS systems in the buses, and we all logged on and looked at one, I believe in Chicago or something, to see how it works. But I think it's great, and I think it's the way of the future. We can't forget those that don't have the access to the technology and still need to provide that to them, so I look forward to that. About the election, I represent the city of Oldsmar and obviously in North County, and while the vote is clear as to what it was about the referendum, I think the general consensus on both sides that I heard was that this was not necessarily the plan for Pinellas County, but that improvement is something that we all agreed, no matter which side of the vote you fell on. And I think that that's something that this board heard over and over again, and that I heard as an elected official that we need. And we have 3 of the biggest employers in Pinellas County with Nielsen Media, Vology, and others that are in Oldsmar and Microlumen. And they have employees that would love to work more hours, and rail aside, an improved bus system would help them to. Some of them are older, don't like to drive at night. Some of them work second shifts. So there was certainly a sentiment that an improved bus system and improved transit system is something that Pinellas County needs. And I look forward to the workshop. And to that, I picked a heck of a meeting to be my first one, but while I appreciate everybody's input from both sides, I will also say, and I think I heard this earlier, that negative and finger pointing and blaming is not productive at all. It can't exist in this. I think we need to have open dialogue on both sides. And I will say this, and I say this respectfully, it came up several times tonight about the meetings and watching the behavior of the board members. And we all are on different boards for different reasons, commissions and city councils and the like. And while it may look like we're not paying attention up here, often we're looking at calendars, we're looking at agenda items, we're looking for emails that were sent. For instance, the email that was referenced that came in yesterday. So I was trying to read it, and while it may not look like I'm paying attention, we all have found that we have to multitask. And to that point, the people that made that point, I found them being very disruptive and disrespectful as well, because while we're trying to listen to other people talk, they're talking to staff members, they're walking around talking to audience members. I don't know what they're talking about, but they were talking about, and I don't know them personally, and I look forward to meeting them, but this has to be a two-way road, if you will, and while we need to respect you, you also need to respect us. And I saw you, taking up staff members' time in the audience, and that's disrespectful, and it's not productive at all. So I hope moving forward to 2016 that we can reach across the aisle and make a better transit system, because I think at the end of the day, that is what the community has said, is that we need to have a better transit system. What it is, I've been involved in transit through civil engineering And in my political career for probably 26 or I keep saying 26, but I know I keep getting older, but it's probably more like 30 years. And I remember, and I've mentioned this before, that this same discussion between Hillsborough and Pinellas County came up 30 years ago. And, you know, while we're now with this vote, we're no closer, I think that the Hatfield and McCoy's mentality that Hillsborough and Pinellas County had for so many years is really starting to go away, and we do know that we need to make this a more regional system, whether it's certainly Pinellas and Hillsborough County, but it really needs to reach far beyond that, especially when it talks about a financing component of it, and you need to be a regional transit system, and you know that includes Polk County and Hernando County and the surrounding counties and the other parts of the state as well. You know, if we're going to continue to be competitive, and that's the one thing that I continued to hear was from a transit system and the young people, young workforce that we have, you know, they're looking for an improved transit system. And, you know, we talked about this about, my kids are grown, but we talked about kids going away to college and not coming back because they go to cities that have transit systems where, you know, they can either ride their bike to a bus, put it on the bus, ride the bus to, you know, some kind of light rail and get to school and never touch their car. My brother's lived in Chicago for, gosh, you know, since the 80s, and I get jealous every time because he doesn't have a car. You know, he gets on with his iPad or he's doing work and doing things like that, and, you know, we are going to lose our competitive edge. There's no such thing as doing nothing. There is no such thing as doing nothing. You either go forward or you go backward, and we certainly do not want to go backward as a county or as a region. So I look forward to the workshop, and I look forward to moving forward and working with both sides on the issue to make a better transit system. So thank you, and I'm glad to be on the PSTA.
Thank you, Mayor Bevis. Well said, and welcome back.
It's 2015, not 16.
Oh, yeah, they fly by fast enough already.
Commission Chair-elect Maroney.
Thank you, Mr. Outgoing Chair, PSTA. First of all, I want to welcome Doug on the board. I've served with him on other boards. He doesn't say much, but when he does, he is right on. And you hit it right on the head today, Doug.
Thank you.
If we're going to move forward, we need to bring everyone together in a positive way. And Commissioner Rice hit it right on the head also. You guys got recognized first, but I was thinking the same thing. Barbara Hazelton, even though she's on the other side, worked so hard. And her commitment and her passion for her side of that story was very successful. And she needs to be included in the future in our discussions, absolutely. Because if she uses that energy and that positive, and what we can agree on, that word will get out to all the folks that she knows that was originally against it. And I think you have shown yourself of being someone who knows the issues, who cares, and who's passionate. So to that, I give you a lot of credit. Commissioner Rice, as the chair of the Legislative Committee, has been great to work with, and I think the reason why everybody's been smiling and laughing when they say goodbye to John, but they know they're going to see me, is because I'm everywhere, you know. And it's like, and now with Commissioner Smith being on MPO and PPC, we're going to be spending more time together on that board than we do on this board. So everyone sees me everywhere, and this was an entirely different experience this time serving on it this year than when I originally served on this board when Roger Sweeney was the director. So that goes way back, way before you, Brad, but Bill Johnson and I, and Ken, no. You weren't even on it back then. So this year was different. It was a challenging year, but I think now that the voters have spoken, we know where their concerns are with that whole Green Light Pinellas, is that we work together for the future and get what the folks want, get that done first, and then other stuff can come later. I would like to wish all the employees of PSTA who work very hard, along with our constituents, a very Merry Christmas, very happy Hanukkah, and also a very happy and healthy New Year. It's been a pleasure to serve here, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maroney. Mr. Vice Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, welcome Mayor Bevis.
Thank you.
Secondly, congratulations to Mayor Bajowski. You did a great job.
Thank you.
And farewell to my seatmate over here, John Maroney, and my friend Mike Smith. we'll be seeing each other in other fields, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to the workshop because as a member of the Finance Committee, I'm concerned about our budgetary potential problems down the line where we're continuing now to be relying on what's proven to be an unreliable revenue source in the ad valorem tax structure that we have. All of us who serve on city commissions know that the ad valorem tax is a mere shadow of what it was back in '07. And with this election result, we're placing ourselves in a very tenuous situation with relying on that source of taxation. Unless we have a tremendous increase in employment and high income employment, which would result in more volume and more demand for the real estate in our county, we're going to continue to experience budgetary issues. And I look forward to working with everybody on that, but that's an extremely important issue that I have a good deal of concern about. I would like to welcome or say happy holidays to everyone, and I would look forward to 2015 being a year where we can really start to build and continue to grow the entire PSTA system. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Commissioner Dighton?
Yeah, just in very final, welcome, Mayor Beaver.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Maroney, best of luck. And then finally, I just wanted to say, really just thanks to everybody for and best wishes for a wonderful new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dighton. I want to, again, just say see you later to Commissioner Maroney and Smith. I'm not going to say goodbye. We'll see you shortly, like literally shortly.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank this board, the PSTA staff, all of our partners, for all of your hard work over the last year. As I said in a memo, it's not a sprint or even a marathon. This is really a journey, and we're taking a different path than we anticipated, but we can still get there. I love this board's approach, and I think it's the right one that all stakeholders, whether they support it, Greenlight or not, should be at the table as we move forward. But this is eminently doable. I think what we heard throughout this campaign, throughout the telephone town halls, the meetings, was that folks believe our bus system is vital and that we need to improve it. And so that is doable. We just need to focus on that over the next year. Looking forward to working with our new executive team. They are fully capable, and new ideas are always good for an organization. I also want to just wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, get some rest over the holidays, and we get right back to work in January. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we're adjourned.